first experience that I had with racism happened when I was 4 years old. The neighborhood that I lived in was predominantly white. It was 1981, and I'd gone down the street to play with a friend. The only thing I remember is that his mom yelled out the screen door, "What's that nigger doing in our yard?" I didn't quite know what it meant at the time. I just know that it stung, and that she wasn't referring to me in a good way. I was only 4 years old.
So it was around year 2012, 2013, and we were celebrating my husband's 40th birthday. And the family and I all went to this resort in Angola, Indiana, and it was Pokagon Resort. And we went toboggan. We had went toboggan all day. And as we were leaving, we had to walk across the parking lot to go back to our cabins, and we saw this red truck approach us, and we had very small children with us, and we heard them yell out, "Leave, niggers!" At that point, we were kind of stunned. My father-in-law spoke out about it, and we just decided for that moment not to ruin the reason why we were there, and that was to celebrate another year of life with one of our loved ones, which just happened to be my husband.
The year was 1992. I was a freshman at Regina High School for Girls, and we had to complete service hours for each year that we went there. I chose one of the events. It was a barbecue chicken dinner where we would service all of the people that were there, and started to serve. I got to one particular table, and one of the parishioners said that she didn't want to be served by me. And I said, "Well, who?" And her response was, "Anybody, just not one of you pickaninnies." I didn't know what the word pickaninny meant at the time, and I was crying because I was embarrassed at what she said in front of everybody else. And I ran to one of the sisters, and I told her what the woman had said. And of course, she came to my aid, and she stormed over and confronted the woman. In turn, the sister took us all home, and that was it. The understanding that that was a racism encounter that I had, it haunts me today, and it shouldn't have been that way.
I remember in high school when we were walking down the halls, we seen cotton balls glued down the hallways, and there were notes saying, "Go back to picking cotton, niggers."
My mom and I, we decided to go to a place called United Dairy Farmers, which was on Bancroft Street. She said, "Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and get some ice cream. I'll give you some money." So I got some money, went in there, got some ice cream for the two of us. After I got the ice cream, I got to the car and I looked at my mother's face, and she looked so darn hurt. She just said to me, I said, "What's wrong, Mom?" She said, "You see those two guys over there walking away?" One of them put his foot on the car and said, "How does a nigger afford a car like this?" Shook his head and walked away. And I was probably 10 or 12 years old when that happened.
When I was younger, I used to play with white dolls. The reason being is because it was really hard to find black dolls. And if you could find them, they didn't look like us. So one of my favorite dolls was my baby Drowsy. And I took her on a trip. We were on our way, my mom and I, down to Little Rock, Arkansas, and we were riding on the Greyhound bus. And so when we got on the bus, everybody was looking at me, and they were saying some things I really didn't understand, but they were wondering, why did I have this white doll? Well, baby Drowsy wasn't a white doll to me. She was just my doll. She was my baby, and I loved her. Well, the bus stopped so that we could get off for lunch. And so I went to grab for my doll, and my mom said, "No, you have to leave her." So I left her on the bus. I wrapped her up. I put my little coloring book by her in my little bag so that she wouldn't fall down. And we got off the bus, we got lunch, and we came back. I was really anxious about coming back because I wanted to get back to my baby doll. And when I got to the seat, she was gone. I thought maybe she fell down, so I looked under the seat, I looked in the blanket, I asked my mom, did you take her? She said, no, maybe you put her in her bag. I looked in my bag, I ran to the back of the bus, I started looking around and I couldn't find her. Then the other passengers were coming back and we had to get into our seats. I cried the whole way to Little Rock, Arkansas from that point, because I was wondering what had happened to my doll. And I remember looking up and looking across the aisle, with these tears and a little dirty nose, hoping that maybe someone would say, here's your doll. But a white lady said to me, you didn't need that white doll anyway.
My first experience with racism was when I was in high school. There was an incident that occurred on the softball field during gym. One of the students, a white student, she was up for bat, and she's like, yep, I'm gonna hit that ball right over there to that nigger. And I said, what'd you say? She said, I'm gonna hit that ball right over to you, nigger. So I waited until she hit, and she came right to the base that I was at, and she knew that I was upset, and I chased her all the way from the softball field inside of the high school, inside of the school. And I started fighting. She didn't fight back, but she led me right to the office area where the principal was. The end of the story is we met. We were both told that we were going to be suspended from school. Well, I was the only one suspended from school. We were told that we were going to get the same amount of time, but the next day I got phone calls from friends that said I thought she was going to be suspended. So the school lied. The school in return suspended me and allowed her to come back to the school. She admitted what she had said to me, but unfortunately, the school didn't see how that was offensive and derogatory. So I was left with a suspension on my record, and she returned back to school.
I was working as an RN in the ER. We start IVs, and of course, we do all kind of things, but we do wear our gloves. But initially, when you go to greet the patient, you kind of want to be warm, and you may touch their arm or, while you're introducing yourself. So I remember, actually a couple of incidents where I would walk into the room, and I would say, hey, my name is Dee Dee, I'm your nurse, and walk up to the patient and kind of gently touch them as we were taught in school, and a couple of patients would jump, and I'm like, I didn't understand why. And this one particular male, he had to be in his late 70s or 80s. He told me, I don't want you touching me. So I'm like, sir, is there a reason why? This is my first time, meeting you. What's going on? He was like, I don't want you rubbing off on me. And I also had several situations because we're blocked by a curtain before you introduce yourself to the patient, so they don't know who's walking into the room. Several patients, when I would walk into the room and classic, hi, my name is Dee Dee, I'm your nurse today, what can I help you with? And blatantly would come out their mouths by saying, I need a white nurse. And I would ask them why. I want a white nurse. And I would be like, why? Because they know more than you. They will automatically assume I'm the housekeeper. And it's like, my badge says RN. Why would you think anything different? And it's just moments like that. It's like, you hate it because it's like, I'm just as competent as anybody else. My skin color does not change that. And people don't see past that. They automatically make this assumption that you're ignorant or stupid. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
One day I hoped for change. My hope is that Black people are accepted and not just tolerated.
My biggest hope is that one day racism will no longer be normalized.
I hope one day that my color does not define my character.
I would love to live in a world where all white people treat Black people the way they want to be treated, with love and empathy, instead of treating Black people with hate and judgment.
What I hope for is that people will at least attempt to try and understand what life is like for other people outside of their frame of reality.
I want just to be treated the same. No special treatment or anything, just to be treated the same. I want my son to be looked at like his peers. I just want to be equal.
What I'm actually hopeful for in this whole situation, if it does ever come to fruition, is peace, just peace and actual equality that we need, that we've been missing for hundreds and hundreds of years.
I hope for change and understanding. Since everyone is talking about racism and the things that are going on, I want people to start doing something about it. Peaceful protests, talking to your children, voting, changing laws. And as far as the understanding, I want people to understand that it is different for African Americans living in America.